Welcome to yet another interesting episode of Alternative Medicine. My name is Haruna Dennis Ibrahim. In my last presentation, I shared with you how, according to a new scientific study, that loneliness happens to be at an increase of over 300% despite social media. And that in fact, it is because of social media that people felt even lonelier. And according to this study also, that loneliness happens to have a higher mortality rate than smoking and even obesity, which means it kills faster than smoking and obesity. I also gave a breakdown statistics of certain ailments and diseases that in recent past years, have been increasing at an exponential scale in Nigeria. And according to new science, that stress happens to be the leading cause of at least 90% of diseases and ailments known to man today. And that our beliefs have a lot to do with our everyday experiences. I also talked about a behavior that we do. This is a behavior our brain does known as mind wandering. Mind wandering is when we are not paying attention. This is either when we are reflecting the past and trying to analyze the future. And we do this because of our prefrontal lobe cortex. This is the executive brain. This is the front part of our brain. And like I said in my previous presentation, that a study was conducted at Harvard University and was published in their journal, Science. According to this study, that 70% of our thoughts when mind wandering are usually negative in tone, and that 95% of the time in a day we are operating from our subconscious mind. Mind wandering, if not well understood and managed, could be very, very lethal to our own health. But the good news is our body knows how to heal and rejuvenate itself. The human body is a far more resilient healing machine than we have ever been taught to believe. Our body is a gigantic network of intelligence. Today, we'll be looking at the human anatomy from its energy levels, so as to give you an in-depth understanding as to how our body functions at that level. Stay with me as I will be coming back to declassify the science. Welcome back. There's a new science. This science is so new, it's not yet in our textbooks. You don't get to see or even hear about it on the mainstream media. It is, however, very important to us. This is a science that I believe will solve most of the problems we are faced with in our world today. This is the science that will bring us even closer to our Creator. The old Newtonian science of cause and effect no longer exists. When I say Newtonian science, I mean the old Isaac Newton science of cause and effect no longer exists, meaning that you have to see it in order to believe it. What new science is telling us now is that in fact we have to believe it in order to see it, the law of causing the effect. And I think for hundreds of years now, that has always been the drift between science and spirituality or religion, is that in science, whatever you cannot use your five senses to perceive, that is sight, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling, whatever you can actually use these five senses to perceive, was considered untrue or was dismissed as not having substantial evidence. Have you ever wondered if there could be a correlation between your thoughts, your mind, and your everyday experiences? Everything is created twice, and we all know that. But very few of us know the power behind knowing that. This shirt that I'm wearing had to be a thought before it became reality. This car that I'm sitting in had to be someone's thought before it came into reality. Our Creator created our universe at an exact precision and balance. Just as we have the law of gravity, there are other laws governing our universe. Today with you, we'll be looking at the law of vibration, the law of entanglement. Although our discussion isn't going to be completely focused on these laws, it will, however, be in relation to these laws. We'll be looking at particle physics or quantum physics and biology. I'll be incorporating both so as to take you to the very core of this science. Everything is a vibration of energy. Our body is a vibration of energy. Our thoughts are vibrations of energy. This car that I'm sitting in is a vibration of energy. If I took a powerful microscope right now and look through the lens of that microscope at my body or this car, what I will see is vibrating field of energy. It won't appear solid as it does right now. For over 70 years, what quantum physics has been telling us is that our universe is made up of tiny particles known as photons. Photons are the very particles, the very element that makes up an atom. And I believe most of us already know what an atom is, as we've been taught atoms in secondary school. These tiny particles are held together through an electromagnetic field. Albert Einstein refers to this electromagnetic field as the central governing agency. This field of energy holds all of us together, connects all of us. These tiny particles, when held together, we call them matter. There's actually an equation for this. E is equals to m squared. Energy is equal to matter. Everything is energy. An experiment was carried out on these tiny particles that our universe is made up of. And according to this experiment, that these tiny particles behaved in miraculous ways that were far beyond our human comprehension and understanding, like going back to their past, changing the past so as to correct the present. So does that mean we could actually do these miraculous things, since we are made up of these very particles as well? And the answer is yes. That it is through our beliefs that we rearrange the very stuff that our universe is made up of, the very particles that our universe is made up of. It is to the condition to which we train ourselves to hold on to those beliefs. It is to that degree that we're able to attract whatever it is into our reality. In the quantum field, every possibility already exists. All the healings that we need is already present. All the peace that we need is already present in our world. But first of all, what is a belief? A belief is the marriage of thoughts and emotions. From the crown of our head downwards, there are 7 energy systems known as the chakras. Just above our hearts, this is where our thought process takes place. And beneath the heart, this is where our emotions happens. There are 2 types of emotions. One is love and the other one is fear. Happiness is not an emotion, it is a feeling. Joy is not an emotion, it is a feeling. Fulfillment is not an emotion, it is a feeling. Gratitude is not an emotion, it is a feeling. Sadness is not an emotion, it is a feeling. Where do we have our feelings? It is in our hearts. The human heart is the most powerful organ in the human body that generates the very electromagnetic field that I told you holds the particles in our universe together, holds atoms, matter together. Our heart generates these very electromagnetic fields, although our brain does too, but the human heart is 100 times stronger electrically than the human brain. The human heart is also 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the human brain. And if I may ask you, which is the organ that is first formed in the human body when a woman conceives? It is the heart. You can imagine this bunch of cells just sitting there, and all of a sudden a heartbeat begins. Isn't that miraculous? Isn't that mysterious? In some cultures, they say this is when the power of the soul enters the body. A discovery was made in 1991 and was published in 1994 at the Oxford University Press in a journal called Neurocardiology. Neuro, as we know, is the brain. Cardiology is the heart. That in the human heart nervous system, there were over 40,000 brain-like cells known as the sensory neurites. That these brain-like cells, these sensory neurites, think independently of the cranial brain, that is the brain. They remember independently of the cranial brain. They feel independently of the cranial brain. In the diagram there, you can see those tiny dots. Those are the sensory neurites. They are located around the valves in our heart. You know, our heart also pumps blood. And this is why the heart is considered to be the master organ in the body and not the brain. I'm not saying the brain isn't important. All I'm saying is that the brain, the human brain, receives most of its instructions from the heart. The brain acts upon signals it receives from the heart so as to flood in our body with the right chemistries that fits, that matches that signals that it receives from the heart. And this is why it is very, very important that we pay attention to our feelings and emotions, because, like I told you, our heart generates electromagnetic fields, and this electromagnetic field, they extend over 5 to 8 feet around us and has a direct effect on the very stuff, the very particles our universe is made up of, the very stuff that we are made up of. So as you can see, our collective emotions, our collective feelings has a direct effect on our environment. And I'm going to share with you these 2 experiments so as to further help support this theory. In 1992, at the Russian Lebedev Institute of Physics, air was sucked out of a glass vessel so as to create vacuum in that glass vessel. And we know a vacuum implies that the glass vessel was empty. But of course, the glass vessel couldn't be empty, as the very stuff our universe is made up of the photons I talked about earlier on were still present in this glass vessel. So what the scientists did was that they took measurements of these photons so as to see where these photons were positioned in this glass vessel, to see the structure of these photons. And after they've done that, they now brought a human DNA to insert inside the glass vessel. But before they did that, they took the measurements again, after which the human DNA was put inside the glass vessel. In the presence of the human DNA, the photons began to follow precisely the geometry of that human DNA. They became ordered, they were not scattered anymore. And what this experiment was actually trying to demonstrate to us was that the human DNA has a direct effect on our environment, on the very photons that makes up an atom. And this is where the law of entanglement comes in. There's always an entanglement between our emotions and our environment. The second experiment was published in 1994 in the Journal of Scientific Exploration. This is also a DNA experiment, but this was a very precise DNA, as it was taken from an umbilical cord. It hasn't eroded yet over time, it was still new. If you can remember, I told you that the human heart generates electromagnetic field that extends 5 to 8 feet around us. So what happened was that they wanted to know if our emotions, if our feelings actually had a direct effect on the human DNA. So what they did was, this human DNA was put inside a vessel within the range of this electromagnetic field that our heart generates. And in the presence of negative emotions like hate, unforgiveness, malice, sadness, regret, immediately the DNA began to coil itself. It began to behave in an unusual way. It was unable to express itself to its fullest capacity. But immediately when the emotions were switched to positive ones like gratitude, fulfillment, forgiveness, joy, almost immediately the human DNA, the DNA began to unwind itself. It began to behave in an exciting manner, as though it was going to replicate itself. So simply what these two experiments are trying to demonstrate is this. In the first one, it shows us that the human DNA has a direct effect on the very stuff our universe is made up of. It has a direct effect on atoms, on matter. While in the second experiment, it shows us that our emotions has a direct effect on our DNA. Here are some experiments which I also performed myself, so as to support this theory as well. Here's a clip. Nice to have you again. Like I spoke in my previous videos, I told you that the mind and the body are intimately linked. And I said I was going to prove this through a practical experiment which I will be doing in this presentation. With me today is Shalom to help me carry out this experiment. Shalom, please, can you? Like I told you, the mind and the body are intimately linked, and our emotions actually affect our body, whether they are positive or negative. So through this experiment, I'll be demonstrating this to you. Sharon, please, can you stretch your hands this way? Okay, yeah, just that direction. Yeah, straight here. Okay. So the experiment I'll be carrying out right now, it's called muscle testing. So I'll muscle test Shalom. Okay. Hold it very strong. You know, don't allow me to push it. Okay. As you can see, her hands are firm. They are strong. Okay. Shalom, can you just think of something that has been bothering you, something that has been disturbing you?
Surely I'll be having nightmares.
No, don't tell me. Okay. Don't tell me. Just think of it. Don't tell me. Just think of it. Okay. Hold it firm. Hold it firm. So you see, all of a sudden, she has lost muscles just by thought alone. So what I'm demonstrating by this experiment is to show you that our mind is actually intimately linked with our body. Okay, Sharon, can you think of something positive, something that makes you happy, something that makes you joyful? Just think of it.
Okay.
Something that excites you.
Yeah, I just did.
You just did? Okay, just so you stretch your hand again. Okay, hold the fan. Same one. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out again. Okay. Fan. You see, all of a sudden, Shalom has regained her muscles back. So which means our emotions, our thoughts actually affect our body. And the amazing thing about it, sure, you can put your hand down. Yeah. The amazing thing about our body is that it has an inbuilt intelligence, an energy intelligence that tells us when something is going wrong, when we are not doing the right thing. My next experiment will be, it's called food testing. You can actually test the energy fields in your food and your body to actually tell you whether this food is fit for your body or not. So I'll be inviting Jeremiah to join me. As you can see, his muscles are firm, they are strong. So she's holding an orange behind him, which means his body actually accepts this orange and it's good for his body. Like I told you, our body has an inbuilt intelligence to tell us what is actually fit for it or not. So we'll be using a different thing. Here are some tablets of vitamin C. Let's see how many tablets his body. Okay, okay.
So should I hold it?
But yeah, hold the fan. I think he has an issue. It's like, I think probably at this moment his body does not need it. Or it's probably, okay, let me have one. Give me one back. Let's try. Oh, you tired?
I'm not.
So, from this experiment, what is showing that, or probably is the pack I'm holding. The energy field, you see, this is about 100 or so tablets of vitamin C. So the energy field shows that it is actually too much for his body. So let me take it away. Let's see. Okay, hold it firm. Firm again. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay. Firm. You see? So by taking away the pack of the vitamin C, Jeremiah has suddenly gained muscles, has suddenly gained strength. The next one will be a bottle of gin. Okay, let's try. Let's see your body.
Try.
You see how? You see how? You see how?
It doesn't even I podcast.
That's very good. So actually, you can see that immediately I brought the bottle of gin, his muscles dropped, and it shows that his body does not in any way need this bottle of gin. Just by the energy fields of his body and the gin, the intelligence in his body can actually tell us whether it's in harmony with the gin or not. So I'll be testing the energy fields of this milk on Jeremiah. Let's see if his body accepts the milk or not. So hold the fan, Jeremiah. So as you can see, his body actually accepts the milk by the strength from his muscles shows that his body is actually in harmony with the milk. So the next thing I'll be experimenting, let me have the milk. The next thing I'll be experimenting with is eggs. We'll try one egg. Okay, the body needs egg. Alright, let's try one more. Let's add more eggs. More eggs. Okay. Okay. It's going down a little bit. Let's try more eggs. Can you hold them? Can you hold more?
Yeah, I can hold more.
Okay. You can see, take it down. Yeah. So actually, from this experiment, you just saw what his body actually needs is just 2 eggs at this point in time. When I added the third one, it was too much for his body, and suddenly his muscles dropped, his strength dropped. So you see, like I said, everything is a vibration of energy. Everything is energy. So this proves my theory that our body and our mind are actually linked, intimately connected together. If you remember in my previous presentation, I said that our heart generates electromagnetic fields which can extend about 8 feet around us, and I promised to show you an experiment that will back up this theory. I have Shalom with me, which I introduced earlier on. We will do an experiment to show you that actually our thoughts actually affect our environment. Here's a ring with Shalom. Shalom, I just want you to imagine this ring going round cycles clockwise. Just imagine it. You don't have to shake your hand, just imagine it. Is it doing that?
Yes.
Okay. I just want you to imagine it going anti-clockwise. Okay. I just want to imagine it going back and forth. Can you see? Okay, I just want you to imagine it going round cycles again. So this shows that the electromagnetic field that we generate affects the environment around us. So as you can see, my theory that our hearts actually generates electromagnetic field 8 feet around us is actually true by the experiment we just carried out now with Shalom. So you can try this at home and it will actually work. It's a law, just as we have the law of gravity and other laws, other scientific laws. This is a law. So if we change our emotions, our feelings, we can actually transform the environment around us. I hope this was informative and educative, and you can actually try this on your body. You can actually use it to heal yourself. You can imagine yourself healing, and the healing will begin to take place. It is a law. It is no longer a theory or something we believe might happen. It is actually a scientific proven law, and I just showed it to you now. So I hope this information becomes useful to you. Thank you for your time. God bless you. I believe this experiment speaks for itself. Our world is going through a lot of crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, demonstrations all over the world, killings, and what have you. There is no other time that our world is in dire need of solutions, answers to its predicaments that is facing at this present moment. This science holds the potentials to be one of the most unifying discoveries at a time when our world is so polarized, at a time when our world is so focused on our differences. To find something that unifies us in such a powerful way at just the right time, at just the right moment in history, is no accident. It is a divine intervention. There is a change that is taking place in our world right now. There is a revolution. There is an awakening that is taking place in our world right now. And this awakening, this revolution, will not be televised, it will be internalized. What I mean by this is that this revolution will be happening within us. We are the change that we need. What is happening in the world today is a direct reflection of our inner selves. So once that change happens within, then the change outside is inevitable. I hope this presentation was very educative, informative, and I hope to see you in my next presentation as usual. Take care of yourself and remain blessed. Bye-bye.